How is your worship life? As a Christian, how often do you worship the Lord? From experience, I've come to know that worship is everything. Like, worship is everything. Worship is an art of warfare. Remember that the Bible says he who sings once, prays twice, or something like that. Worship is an art of warfare. Worship is a route to intimacy. Worship is worship is everything. Worship is just everything. Worship ignites your spirit man. Worship is just everything. I remember when I had initially given my life to Christ, I think in my first year, during my first year, I was still learning like the basics and what I'm supposed to be doing. I was reading my Bible, and I was fasting, but I wasn't worshiping. I didn't know how to worship. And then the Lord came to me one day and he said, I was sleeping, and he said, worship me. He said, worship me. He asked me to begin to worship him, that I should start worshiping him. And when I woke up, I said to myself, worship? What does that even mean? Like, yes, I knew the word worship before when I was just a Christian. I was a worldly Christian. Yes, I knew what worship was. I knew that worship meant when church people sing to God, but I didn't really know how I was supposed to do it and like start applying it to myself. I didn't know how I was supposed to start doing the same thing because um, I don't know how to sing. I didn't know how to sing. I never used to sing, so I didn't know, like, I just didn't know what exactly the Lord was asking me of. I remember that I kept asking my Christian friends, like, hi, please, what exactly is worship? The Lord has asked me to be worshiping Him, and I just don't exactly know what I'm supposed to be doing. How do you worship? And, many of them, they did try to help me. They said, oh, you just sing worship songs that you know. I'm like, but I don't know how to sing any worship song. I don't know how to sing anything, nothing. I didn't even have any worship song on my playlist. I didn't have any gospel song on my playlist. So how would you know how to sing what you don't even listen to? I didn't used to listen to gospel songs. Maybe you just go to church and they worship and you come home. But because I'm not someone that loves to sing, I don't even grab the songs from church and sing them to myself. No, nah, no. So I asked them and they said, oh, just sing to the Lord. I'm like, no, I can't sing. And then I remember I typed on Google, I said, how do you worship God? How to worship? And Google was helpful. They gave me quite some suggestions. They gave me quite some suggestions. But how I eventually succeeded in learning how to worship the Lord was through gospel songs, of course. I was on YouTube someday and a particular song popped up, and it was a 2 hours worship and praise. And I just clicked on it randomly. I had no interest, but I just clicked on it. It got so bad that the Lord kept insisting, worship, worship. And I would get up from my bed and I would speak back to him and I would say, but I don't know how to. I don't know how to worship you. I want to, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I can't sing. I don't know any song. I don't know the lyrics and have a terrible singing voice. Like, I just don't know any song. So I would reply back to him and say, I don't know how to. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So the Lord did keep insisting. And I think, so this day that I was on YouTube and I came across a song that said 2 hours 2 hours worship, 2 hours worship song, 2 hours worship or so like that. I clicked on it and it started playing and oh, like I was on earpiece and Oh, the song, it sounded so wonderful to my soul. Like I just kept like praising and adoring the Lord and loving on the Lord, and it was such a precious moment. And I continued like that for like an hour. It was a 2 hours playlist. Continued like that for an hour in a state of adoring the Lord and loving the Lord and just being so joyous in the Lord. And my whole focus was on the Lord. My whole focus was on adoring and loving him. So as this worship song was helping me reach that spiritual state, I myself was complying and adoring the Lord and loving on him. So I was worshiping. So I was worshiping. I did that during the daytime, and at night I was like, oh, I really had a good time with that song. I'm going to, listen again. And I put on my earpiece and I had downloaded the playlist. I put on my earpiece and I played it, and it was just wonderful. My spirit man was lifted. I was actually laying on my bed. No, I was no stress. I was laying on my bed face up, and my spirit man was lifted, and oh my goodness, the songs, they soaked into every fiber of me, and I was worshiping and I was adoring and I was loving the Lord, and I was just having fun with it. Like I didn't have any other. Know how that's just where you would rather be. That's just where what you would rather be doing. And I enjoyed every second of it. Like I melted into the worship. I melted into the session, and it was just beautiful. It was wonderful. And that night it lasted for like, let me say, an hour or so. Yeah, maybe an hour or 45 minutes. Funny enough, I didn't actually realize that what I had just done was actually worship. I just felt like, oh, I really enjoyed or enjoy listening to that playlist. But I didn't realize that what I had just done was actually worship. I then got to learn that you can worship, through singing and singing praise, or you can actually worship through gospel songs, the right gospel songs. What matters is that your spirit man, your body, soul, and spirit are all into it and all adoring the Lord. Like you give yourself entirely, your attention, everything to the Lord at that moment. You cannot fake worship. You can't fake worship. If you are distracted, you are thinking of this, you are thinking of that, you can't fake it. So that day my spirit man, my body, soul, and spirit was just all into adoring the Lord, loving the Lord, lifting his name and just praising him and just telling him how much I love him. Like, oh, you know. And so when I went to sleep that night, I actually didn't realize that I had just done the actual worship. I didn't realize that I had just worshiped the Lord. So I was not expecting an encounter, but it actually turned out to be a very great night of encounter with the Lord. When I went to sleep, when I kept my phone aside and the earpiece aside, and I put up the light, and I lay down, I had not actually slept off. No, the Lord just put me in that state where you are not sleeping, but you are not entirely awake, that middle state where you can tell that you can still tell what is going on in your surrounding, but you are too lazy to actually open your eyes, but you are not deep asleep. You are still conscious. No, when I was in that state, that moment where your eyes is closed and you are just thinking about maybe what you are going to do tomorrow and all that, suddenly the presence of the Lord, the presence of the Lord just came down on me, and it enveloped me. It enveloped me, and I remember I was shivering. I was shivering. It enveloped me, but I could not open my eyes, and I became frozen. Like I couldn't move either. I couldn't move. In the position I was laying face up. So in that position, I was just frozen. I couldn't move my body. I couldn't move. I was frozen, but I was quite aware. I couldn't open my eyes, but I was aware of what was happening. The presence of the Lord came down heavily, and it just enveloped me, and I could feel a strong tingling sensation all over me. It was so strong, and I was shaking. I was shaking, I was shaking, I was shaking, I was shaking uncontrollably. And his presence was just so powerful and just so much and just so rich. It wasn't my first time of experiencing the Lord's presence, so I wasn't like surprised, like yeah, by that time. So his presence came down, and the next thing I went into an encounter, and he and my spirit man went with the Lord, and I remember he was just taking me through the clouds, through the air, and I can't explain it. And the Lord just dwelled with me for some time, and he took me somewhere, and we're somewhere. He was with my spirit man, and we're somewhere, and I was telling him how much I loved him, and how much I loved him, and how much I want him to always come to me. And he said, and he was like, yes, if I always worship him that way, that yes, he would always come to me, and he'll play around with me. You know, just imagine a father playing with a 4-year-old child and just turning the person around, like turning the person around. Yeah, that's more like what the Spirit of the Lord was doing to me. Yeah, the Spirit of the Lord was doing that to me. You know, I just saw myself in the air and just going around and going around. And sometimes I'll be lifted up and down and lifted up and down. And it was really fun. Really, really, like, it was a really fun moment, and just a wonderful time in the presence of the Lord. So, you know, personally for me, I feel like the benefits of worshiping the Lord, spending time in worship, like the benefits can never ever be overemphasized. Like it just can never ever be overemphasized. Also, worship is also an art of warfare. Worship can also serve as your art of warfare. Worship can also serve as your art of warfare. I remember one day that I was being attacked. I was being attacked, and this attack was coming from the marine kingdom. I remember it was nighttime, and I had just gone to bed. I know after a while of sleeping, I was kind of awoken, but I didn't like completely wake up in this physical state. But spiritually, I was awoken, and I started seeing, and then I could see two marine girls, like demonic spirits, two marine demonic spirits, and they were coming to my room, and they were passing through the back window, and they passed through the back window, and they were going to the back door, and they stood at the back door, and then they started entering through the back door of my family house. So they were passing through the back and heading to the door of my room so that they can enter my room. So as they had entered the house and they were walking towards my room, I opened my eye in the physical realm. So in the physical realm, I opened my eyes, and I knew that, okay, I have some guests. Like I had seen it spiritually, so physically I know that, okay, spiritually there are people here. That there are people here. Like there are people from the marine kingdom here. There are demons here. You know, physically I knew that, okay, there are demons here. So I thought to myself, okay, what should I do? How should I go about this? And I thought, usually I know I do warfare. I use Bible. I go into warfare using Bible verses, you know, just warfare. Yeah, usually I do warfare, but you know, I just was not like, I just didn't feel the need to go into warfare. I just didn't feel the need to go into warfare. I just had this desire and hunger for worship. You know, the hunger that the Lord put in me that moment was for worship. And so I took my phone, I went to my playlist, my worship playlist. I know I plugged in my earpiece. I just kind of ignored, like, okay, I know they are here, but who cares? Like, who cares? Like, I'm not going to give you guys the attention of going into warfare. No, like, who cares? Who cares really? So I took my phone, and I went to my playlist, and I just put on my earpiece, and I went into, like, personally I love my worship playlist. I love my worship playlist, and I love to worship the Lord, you know, through gospel songs. I started worshiping, and I just, when I go into worship, I just lose myself. I love on the Lord. I adore the Lord. I just sing out and just love him. And oh my goodness, I love worship. I just go, like, I even completely forgot about any demonic guest or anything. Like, no, like, I didn't remember that any longer. I think I worshiped for like an hour, and it was just so wonderful. Like, worship is beautiful. Worship just consumes you. Worship consumes you. So that's how it was for me. Like, it was just a wonderful period of worship, and I think it went on for about an hour. I worshiped for about an hour. And when I was done, it was when I was done and I took off my earpiece and I set it aside and I set my phone aside. I remembered, oh yeah, that happened. Yeah, that happened. I saw some demonic marine spirits, and they were true, and they walked and they were coming to my room. Yeah, that happened. Okay. Yeah, like, okay. And so I went back to sleep. So as I lay down to sleep, as I lay down, the only thing I did was, I just closed my eyes. Just the moment I lay down to sleep and I closed my eyes, I heard the Lord speak to me, and he said, now start praying in tongue in your mind. Like, in my mind, not like outwardly. And so in my mind, I started praying in tongues, like started praying in tongues. And then I prayed in tongues for like 4 seconds, or maybe like 6 seconds, just like 6 seconds. And then suddenly the vision, I don't know, my eyes opened and I saw those two people that had come to my house. I saw those two girls that had come. I saw them. So basically, when the atmosphere of worship was going on, they had to leave. So they left because obviously they could not stand. They can't stand warfare prayer. They can't stand worship. They can't stand the presence of the Lord that comes with worship. So I saw them. The Lord opened my eyes to see them, and they were leaving. So they had walked to a great distance. I could see them in somewhere like a field, like a desert kind of field, and they were walking. They had gone quite very, very far. They were no longer around me. Actually, they had gone very far. So the Lord opened my eyes to see them. And then he said to me again, now pray in tongues again. And I prayed in tongues like 4 seconds. And a massive, when I say a massive, I mean I heard it. A massive explosion like came upon them, like poof, like it was like, I don't know, like thundering from the sky. A massive explosion hit them and they just exploded like poof. And the explosion was so heavy and was so great that I said, does it, like, for that moment I entered a moment of confusion because I heard it in the physical realm, and in the physical realm, it was just so huge. It was just so big that I said, oh my God, did like a filling station just explode? Yeah, that kind of sound. Like, imagine a filling station exploding. That's how mighty it sounded. In the physical realm, I was like, did a filling station just explode? But it was not a filling station. It was this demonic spirit that the Lord was doing away with. So they had come to attack me and they had met their worst through worship. Worship is a wonderful art of warfare. Like, I remember there was another time when the same marine spirits, I don't know why they're always coming for me, why the same marine spirit had come to attack me. They attacked me. They attacked me. I was sleeping and they attacked me. And the Lord, when I was about to wake up, the Lord showed me what I was supposed to do. So sometimes the Lord shows me like, this is what you should do. I see myself doing what he wants me to do. So I wake up, I get up in the physical realm, then I do what he wants me to do. So the marine spirit, they had attacked me, they had attacked me, they had attacked me. Now, when I was waking up in the spiritual, in the physical realm, the Lord showed me like, this is how you are going to handle this attack. And he showed me myself where I had put on, no, I didn't put on my ear. I didn't worship through gospel music. He showed me myself where I was singing worship songs in my room. Like, so now I had become acquainted to quite a few worship songs, and I was singing worship songs and I was dancing to him. to the Lord, and I was singing his praises, and I was dancing and dancing, and I was joyous and I was happy. I wasn't like going, and the Lord made sure to warn me to not wake up and be like, ah, oh, what an attack I faced. Oh, oh, like I've been attacked. Oh, I've been defeated. Oh, I have tear, sadness, sadness, sadness. It was like, no, do not do that. He does not like seeing that. Don't do that. He said, when you get up, he was showing me myself, and he was showing me what I'm supposed to do. When you get up, you put on your garment of worship and you start singing worship, and you dance, and that's what I did. I worshipped and I danced and I sang and I loved on the Lord and I praised his name and I worshiped. And now when I went to sleep, oh boy, the victory. Oh, the victory, the victory, the victory, the victory. Like, I can't explain it all. There are victories that you can't even explain. So for me, yes, worship is everything. Worship is everything. Worship is a major art of warfare. If you are facing a situation where you don't know what to do, where if you feel like it's beyond you, just go into worship. Go, go into worship. Oh my goodness. Go into worship, love on the Lord, worship him, praise, sing, dance. Oh my goodness.